There's nothing like a surprised Swiftie. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm here for another reaction video. Today I'm going to be reacting to the Folklore Long Pond studio session, or as I like to call it, Folklore Live from the Bottom of a Pond. I was very excited when this was announced, but very frustrated because it was only on Disney Plus, and this bitch can't access Disney Plus. They don't have it where I live. So for like 3 hours, I was in hell watching everyone else enjoy it on Twitter, and yet I was not able to participate. Now, someone hooked me up with a link, and I was able to watch it all. I have it downloaded, and I can't wait to dive into it with you today. So generally talking about the concept of this, I was so pleased that she decided to do a long form thing where she really delved into the album, because there's a lot of mystery surrounding this album. And as we've come to find out, I would say at least 50% of it is somewhat fictional. So I did like that she gave her reasoning where she said, I wanted to give people time to live with it and create their own stories. She said the gays can have one point, and we got it, but now we're here and we have the real explanations behind most of these songs. I say most because Taylor Swift is a mysterious snake. She doesn't like to give us all the information. So she did kind of skip over a few things, and we'll get into that. First of all, the looks. Now we know that Taylor styling herself can go wrong, and it mostly does go wrong because she's not a fashionista, she's a musician, honey. She has bigger and better things to worry about than what she's putting on her body. But I thought that she did a pretty good job. It was kind of low-hanging fruit because it was cozy vibes, and I feel like it's really hard to fuck up a cozy vibe, but she did it. I was getting a lot of safe and sound energy, like the video in the log cabin with the fire. I was just really appreciating the whole aesthetic and world that she built up. And I think that's something she does so well with all of her eras, is kind of like world making and constructing this whole vision that we can situate ourselves in and understand her work through. I thought it was amazing that she reiterated that she did not tell her label about folklore. Big Machine Records could never have the range that Universal does in terms of letting Taylor do whatever she wants and trusting her as an artist, because that's what she is. So it was cool to hear that she's kind of able to like have this total creative control and freedom that I really think she didn't have at Big Machine. And she's been like dropping hints subtly throughout the years that she's faced internal conflict when it came to artistic decision making. Like with 1989, they tried to dissuade her from going full pop. They forced her to put a lot of country songs on Red. I mean, I think she was held back. So I think the next stage of her career is going to be so interesting, because I feel like she really is, now that she's established this kind of like superiority in the pop realm, she's kind of able to do whatever she wants. And Folklore is a really good example of that. Did anyone else think that Folklore was an album about mental illness? Taylor be like, people are going crazy. Not me, but people are going crazy. But I think she's going crazy too. I mean, she said more than once had this album kind of saved her in quarantine from drowning, or like a flotation device. So I do wonder, what was she going through? Why have we not heard from her for months? I mean, Cardigan came out, the album dropped, and she was like, bye, I'm gonna make little videos for weird award shows and post them on Twitter. I mean, where did she go and why? We wanna know. We didn't get that information, but you know, with Taylor, you gotta take your time. Things become revealed throughout the eras. And what I loved so much about this performance was that it had a really like close up shot on her face. And one of Taylor's biggest skills as a performer, I think, is that she is super expressive on her face and with her body language, which is why she's so captivating in tour and on live performances, because she just has this kind of like charisma and energy that she really channels throughout her entire body. So the close-up shots on her face I thought were so important for this album, where pretty much every lyric hits a specific mark and it is supposed to mean something very intimate. So I think that this was a really good vehicle for her to do that. I like that they didn't cut away from her face too much. I could have done with less close-up shots of Aaron Dessner's hands, but you know what? I'm grateful for the food that I received. And I could definitely see her kind of going off into different worlds when she was singing these songs, like that look in her eye when she kind of just gets like abducted by the song and really immersed into whatever she's singing about. So let's start with The One. I love The One. I think that's up there with like one of my stan songs of this album. I just think that it is so wistful and longing and sad. Interesting how she was like, I have a brain that creates words and a mouth that sings, here's the one. Whereas with all the other songs, we kind of got a bit of tea. But with The One, she was like, here you go. I refuse to explain myself. And I think that's probably because it's about Harry Styles. all signs point to that. There's no other logical conclusion. I did read somewhere from Aaron Dessner that he said the one was not necessarily about her experience. She was telling the story of a friend, perhaps. Who's that friend? I'd like to know. I think the friend is herself because she misses Harry Styles and William Bowery is living with her, so she can't exactly say that she does, but I know that she's a Haylor stan. I know it. They were something, don't you think so? I thought the live performance of Cardigan was so good, and it really is one of those songs that once you get into the swell of it, it really kind of takes flight in the middle of the song. It's that double chorus and bridge in the middle that really does it for me. And it's so evocative. I really prefer the Candlelight version that she put on Spotify a while ago, and it seems like she performed that version in this session, which I really appreciated. I think it was overproduced to an extent. Like, I think songs like This Is Me Trying needed that kind of like cinematic score, but Cardigan for me is like a singer-songwriter vibe. We don't need all that extra doo-doo-doo-doo going on. We just need the vocals, we need a very simple guitar, a very quiet piano, and Taylor doing her thing, which is what we got, so I'm grateful. So listen, The Last Great American Dynasty is another one of my favorites from the album, and I loved hearing the story about how she said that she has been wanting to write it since 2013, and I'm kind of like, so you've been drawing parallels between yourself and Rebecca Harkness for that long. Have you hated Rhode Island the entire time that you lived there? I mean, I kind of discussed this in my folklore reaction video, but it was kind of controversial when she moved there. The neighbors really hated her. She tried to build a wall. They were like, fuck you, you're ruining the community. It was an interesting scenario, and we haven't seen much of her there. There have been a lot of security breaches at that house, and I feel like it's given her nothing but grief. And it was so expensive that I think it's gonna be difficult to offload, especially in a time like this. So I did think it was interesting that she's been wanting to write a song like this for a really long time. And I think that the songs that she percolates on for ages that come to fruition eventually, like Blank Space, where she was kind of like collecting lyrics here and there, those tend to be really interesting experiments of hers, because from what I can gather, her process is quite quick. She'll sit there and she'll like bang out a song and not touch it or come back to it. I think in interviews she's even said that if she can't get through something immediately, she'll put it aside. So I always love to hear the works that are more considered and longer in the making, because I feel like it shows a different side of her craft. And I love that she talked about the country music narrative device, where you say it's about this person, about that person, and then you're like, oh, it's me. Which is definitely what she did, and I think that this is one of the most satisfying build-ups and releases that she's ever done. The level of storytelling in this song is just, c'est magnifique, what can I say? It's a masterpiece. It's never been done before, especially not by her. The only thing I didn't like was I thought that Aaron Dessner's piano riff that he was doing throughout the chorus was really distracting and annoying, and it took me out of the song, and it took me away from the vocals and the story, which is exactly what I didn't want to happen. So if I'm being honest, The Last Great American Dynasty Live was a letdown for me. I was not pleased. It was not satisfying to me in this moment of my career. So then we go into Exile, and she finally fucking reveals that William Bowery is Joe. And I've been saying this from day one. I've been seeing people on Twitter saying it's Ed Sheeran, saying that it's Lord. Her ass was probably in Antarctica playing with a polar bear. She was not sitting there co-writing a song with Taylor Swift. Surprising to me that Joe Alwyn has talent. To me, he's like a wax figure that came to life, but I'm not even sure if it came to life. Like, I think he might just be a wax figure. It's very creepy to know that he writes songs, because I feel like the man doesn't have personality. I'm not hating. She loves him. She loves her London boy, but like, I don't get it. I like the story behind Exile, and I think that her desperation to collaborate with Justin Vernon was very interesting to me. She was too shy to ask him straight up to collaborate with her. And you know why I think that is? I think that it's because Taylor has craved the approval of like the niche music industry for a really long time. Like the Pitchforks, the Bon Ivers, all of those like indie artists that are much cooler than her, as she would say on her hit single, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. And I think that that kind of, that shyness has developed into a fear that her music is not serious, or that she won't be taken seriously, which is why she hesitated to reach out to Bon Iver. But obviously he jumped at the opportunity, because this is a great song, this record is amazing, and Taylor Swift is super talented. If only she would use her big galaxy brain to remember that. Are we gonna talk about how Justin Vernon looked like he was in a hostage situation? Like the hat, the bandana, the refusing to make eye contact or even show his eyes to the camera. It really gave me like Hostage on BBC News being forced to read a statement saying that he like pledges himself to whatever terror organization is controlling him. That's the energy that I got. I wish he would have at least taken the fucking hat off. Like, we literally can't see the man. It's like having a huge blanket sing with Taylor Swift. And I think the energy would have been a lot better had we been able to like see him, but he's like one of those guys that has like committed fully to the bit of being a man of the woods that doesn't care about anything and wants to disconnect from society. And he's committed to it so greatly that I think it makes him look like insane. So shout out to The Hostage for writing a song with Taylor Swift. The vocals were amazing, and I am wondering if Exile is going to be like pushed as the next single. I don't really see this album following a trajectory of having more music videos or even pushing singles out to radio, but Exile has been doing pretty good on streaming, and it's the only one they did a video for YouTube of the session. So I'm thinking that this is the next single. Also, side note, I just want to say that this folklore session thing, it's exactly like a secret session. This is literally what happens at the secret sessions. So if you feel like you missed out on that opportunity, here it is in front of your face, right here for you. I love the look that she's wearing with Jack when they're having that conversation in the garden. I think she looks really good. It reminds me of that candid of her walking around in New York with Joe, arm in arm. I like the hat, I like the shoes. Everything was working for me. Now listen, my tears ricochet really fucking hurts my feelings. I really get very upset when I even think about anyone doing anything wrong to Taylor Swift at any point in time. It's just not humane, and I think that we should take them to the International Court of Justice and try them for war crimes, because it's not fair. It's not fair. I like how she acknowledged the kind of pressure that she has in terms of deeming a track 5. So if you don't know, track 5 is like the crying song, the emotional song, the heavy-hitting song on a record that usually becomes a fan favorite. And I think she's kind of lost her ability to do track 5 since Red. I think the pressure of what a track 5 means has been really forced. So she writes all these songs and she writes a track 5 deliberately so that she can shove it on the album. And I don't think that works. Like, I thought The Archer was a pretty terrible track 5. All You Had to Do Is Stay, questionable choice. I think the idea of forcing a track 5 is something that she strayed away from and kind of addresses in this session, where she says that when she was writing it, she knew where she was going to put it. So instead of being like, let me write until I find a track 5, as she was writing a song, naturally it came to her that this was a track 5. There was no other place that it could go. And boy, was she right, her and her big ass brain. This performance was actually probably my favorite from the session. It really shocked me because of how emotive she was during it. And when I first heard the song, it was very gentle and almost kind of like wounded and recoiling. But this performance, Jesus Christ, she's like barking into the microphone in a really beautiful way. I mean, the look on her face, there's so much vengeance and anger and hurt and upset that goes into this entire thing. I mean, we all know what it's about. It's about Scott Borchetta. And I think we do forget sometimes when we look at it like myopically how much of a betrayal this was to her on a personal level, not even talking about her music. It's just that this was a person that she really loved and cared for and thought had her best interests at heart, that turned around and stabbed her in the back. And if we know anything about Taylor Swift, she's big on loyalty. And I was talking about this with a friend the other day. I think that Taylor in her mind writes her life as a fairy tale, and she has like heroes, villains, good, bad, right, wrong. It's very black and white in her dimension. So when something like this happens that is quite objectively wrong, I think it's a big deal for her. But I also think it's some sort of emotional release. I think it's good for her to have an adversary. She likes to have a villain. She likes to have something to fight against. I think it really propels her and pushes her forward. When she got canceled, we got Reputation. When the Masters thing kind of fell apart, we got Folklore. I think these moments of conflict really inspire something in her. Even though they're painful, it brings out something magical in her creativity. So, and the lyric, I didn't have it in myself to go with grace, is truly cutting, because I feel like above all, Taylor Swift tries to be a kind person. I mean, you will never hear a bad word about her from anyone she's worked with professionally. There's never gossip about her being a brat or her being a diva, her being ungrateful. Like, she truly is a nice person, and I think she always tries to do the right thing. She can be a little self-interested, but I think she tries to do the right thing. So when she says that she didn't have it in herself to go with grace, I think that goes against her nature and her instincts. So it says a lot to have a lyric like that on the album. So the stretch of my Tears Ricochet to 7 is like impeccable. I mean, the material that we get in that like 15-minute stretch of time is unreal. But Mirrorball, again, is one of the most captivating Taylor Swift songs because she's being so honest with herself. And Taylor is a very skilled orator, and she is especially talented at talking about herself. If she knows one subject inside and out, it is herself. She's very self-aware, she's very analytical and critical of her mistakes and her successes. So Mirrorball was really interesting to me because she contextualized it, which was helpful in terms of the lockdown and having all of her concerts canceled and her being like spinning her wheels and still trying to get on that tightrope, still trying everything to keep you looking at me. There is like a deep need for approval within her. We saw this in Miss Americana. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. In some ways, I do think Taylor's a little stunted emotionally, and it definitely comes out in Mirrorball, but I think she's getting at a truth here, and she's learning something about herself, because being able to say that she constantly needs approval, and she sometimes doesn't have a sense of who she truly is, and puts on this mask for different people in different situations, that is very brave and honest, and something that she would not have done when she was the 1989 robot. So we love it. We love to see it. The acoustic arrangement of this is really beautiful. And I thought that this song, when I heard about the process of how she wrote it with Jack, I really want her to write to track more. I think it gives her a lot more freedom. I think her melodic math of how she writes her songs does constrain her at times, especially when you listen to like Fearless, Speak Now. Amazing songs, don't get me wrong, but they follow a formula. And I feel like when she's writing to track, she flings open the doors and the arrangement is there, and all she has to do is write a top line and a melody for it. And I think that kind of writing has produced much more interesting things from her going further in her career. So it'd be great to hear her collaborate with other producers that kind of stray off into different genres that have existing tracks that need a top line, because I don't know, I just feel like we got something different from her, and I'm always looking for something different. Even when it goes wrong, I still appreciate an experiment. I did think that we needed a drum in this performance of Mirrorball. Mirrorball has this kind of like hazy, sleepy feel that's anchored by this like hi-hat thing, this like hit. And I really wanted that in this performance because I think it adds another dimension and weight to the song that we don't get when it's not there. All right, 7. Now this is the real mystery of the album, okay? She refused to explain herself. She was like, 7 is a song, here you can listen to it. 7 is mysterious. She didn't say that it was fictional, so I really do think this is one of the autobiographical songs. And you know, there's a little part about having a crush on a girl, question mark. So it doesn't surprise me that she wanted to stray away from this topic of conversation. But moment of silence for 7. One of her most interesting, diverse, exciting songs I've ever heard. Her vocals are amazing. I did think that she struggled to replicate that energy that she had on the track because it's a very quiet vocal. I would imagine it was recorded with a mic that was like very close to her face. I just think that trying to project this song is difficult because it's got like, it just washes over you. It's like a wave. So I liked 7. I will always love 7, but I prefer the studio version of this, to be honest. I liked how she talked about how she doesn't throw tantrums anymore. She doesn't throw the cereal at her mom, but metaphorically speaking, I think Taylor regularly throws cereal at numerous people. I mean, her temper tantrums might not look like tantrums, but let me tell you, it's an unconstrained expression of anger that gets lashed out quite frequently. So I wouldn't say that her tantrums have gone away. I just think they've changed shape. August. I don't know why people love this song so much. It's so boring to me. We get the whole explanation of the trilogy. She calls the character Augusta. I don't really care about that. With the fictional stuff, I'm only kind of interested when it's like tangentially related to something that she experienced. I love the idea that she writes from different perspectives, but I'm just not super enthralled by the Cardigan, August, Betty progression. It's smart, it's cool, but I am not interested in it. August to me really only takes off when we get to the bridge, and the bridge is amazing, but I think that the build-up and the wait for the payoff is not worth it almost. When I listen to August, I always skip to the bridge because the vocals are great, and I like that like double time speak thing that she does. But I don't know, this is a it's not a skip, but it's like a listen to half of and then skip kind of song. And the Jack and Taylor dynamic is really quite adorable. He gives me like gay cousin vibes. I know that he's not, but when he's with her, that's the dynamic that I pick up on. This is me trying. Girl, what? I mean, When she explained this, I was like, okay, finally, some fucking sense. Because when I heard this song, I could not for the life of me figure out what it was about. I think that's because I was trying to like apply it to her life and I couldn't really see how any of these like metaphors and images fit together. But I will say, as a writer, she can be an evasive narrator and she can kind of like obscure her point with a lot of metaphor. And I do wish she'd pare it down sometimes and like stick with one thing and then write clearly around it so that I can really absorb the meaning of a song. And with This Is Me Trying, it's very convoluted. Like I was so ahead of the curve became a sphere. Behind All My Classmates ended up here. Like there's a lot going on. She's driving somewhere, she's at the lookout, it doesn't make sense. I mean, even when she explained it, I think that it only checks out with the explanation. You wouldn't get it from listening to this song at all. But I do think it's really cool that she wanted to like inhabit the brain of an addict and kind of try and relate to the idea of giving your best and having other people think that it's not enough, but knowing that you're doing everything that you can to be better. I like that idea a lot. And I think that this really shows her talent as a writer, not just as a songwriter, but as a writer, in that she's truly an empath. She is very interested in inhabiting and understanding other people's neuroses, which I think is going to be an incredible skill going forward if she continues this type of writing. I love the arrangement in this performance. I thought it was much more meaningful, and the whiskey line makes more sense in context now that we know that it's about addiction. Before, I was kind of like, this sounds good, but anyone know what she's saying? I don't. Then we get to my actual Stan song. She says it's fictional, but I know the truth. I know the truth. In my reaction video, I had to cut out a really embarrassing, like 1 minute speech of me almost crying because I was so convinced upon hearing it and like not reading about it that it was her saying she had dated Carly Claus. She says that's not true. That's not what it's about. I'll take her word for it. I like how she talked about how autobiographical writing can be really restrictive for her, and how when she's trying to put together an album, one fictional song can really throw off the cohesion of an autobiographical record. So I love that she's casting her net wide and taking recommendations and experiences and looking at the world around her. I think it will only make her a more mature person and a better writer. So I'm really into that. She's the kind of artist that when she finds something that works, I think she sticks with the formula for a while. Now that all of these random events and things that are out of her control have happened, she's had to dial that down a little bit. So that was really interesting for me to hear about how Illicit Affairs came about. But you know what I think it's about, you know. She picks up the guitar halfway through the song. Okay, Bruce Springsteen, the talent. I love the guitars in this session, by the way. There are definitely some icons to be added into the lineup. The small one that looks kind of beat up, I want to get a drink with her. We have things to discuss. Something else interesting about this song was that I thought she was empathizing with someone who was the other woman, per se, like the cheater in a situation, which is interesting because when you compare Illicit Affairs to a song like Girl at Home, where she is like very heavily chastising someone for not being loyal to their partner, this is kind of proof of her expansion and her growth as an artist and as a person, because I feel like cheating to Taylor is one of those like cardinal sins that she can never forgive or even attempt to understand. I think there was an effort made here to inhabit the mind of someone who makes a decision like that and how devastating it can be being on the other side of a morally wrong situation, which she does not like to find herself in. Invisible String. I love this song. It is cute. It's not one that I return to a lot, but again, the storytelling, the narrative, the world making is really amazing, and it's so relaxed and it doesn't feel forced at all. I loved hearing her talk about it with Aaron Dessner, and when she was explaining it, this idea of like fate and having an invisible string kind of pulling you through your life, taking you to exactly where you're supposed to be, this really reminded me of Speak Now Taylor and how enamored she was with fairy tales and destiny and, you know, moral absolutes, right, wrong, good, bad, hero, villain. I love hearing that perspective from her because it's very quaint and it feels very in touch with her younger writer self. So I appreciated hearing her explanation and knowing that she still thinks like that, because it just reminds me of songs like Enchanted and White Horse, like these fables almost that cast her as the protagonist in a very dramatic story. There's this genuine sense of optimism that I feel like we haven't had since 1989. She wasn't very optimistic on Reputation, and Lover to me felt forced. So this was a really genuine kind of like cheerful, sunny disposition moment that I loved. Her body language is so cute in the song as well. It's clear that she loves singing it and she loves the person she's singing it about, her London boy. And the guitar arrangement is really cool. I actually think I like this guitar arrangement better than the studio version. Mad Woman. Did anyone else become very scared when they heard Mad Woman? I thought that she was gonna leap through the screen and strangle me. It was fucking scary. I don't know why anyone takes on Taylor Swift as an enemy. Why would you do that to yourself? No matter what your motivations are, surely it's not fucking worth it. It's not worth it. Her wrath is too powerful, her reach is too far, her pen is too sharp, her tongue is too cruel. Like, it's not a good idea. When she was explaining the song, it looked like she was trying really hard not to say Scooby-Doo's name. Like, she really wanted to just be like, fuck you, straight into the lens, which is essentially what she did when she sang the song. It was scary. I love the explanation behind that every time you call me crazy, I get more crazy. And like that gaslighting thing really does ring true in this song, and consistently being told that you're angry or told that you're overreacting and having that just spur you on even more. When she was looking into the camera during the song, I really felt like I had sold her masters. Like, I was the one getting canceled on Twitter for betraying her. It was terrifying. Scooby-Doo is going into hiding. I don't know how he shows his face. It's fucking embarrassing. Yeah, at the end of Mad Woman, I was kind of like, huh, even her psychosis is productive. Epiphany. Honestly, I skipped her. I skipped her in my first reaction, and I skipped through her in this because I just can't with this song. I love an experimentation. I love a moment where she goes off the beaten track and tries something new. So I appreciated that explanation of Epiphany. I just don't fuck with this song. I don't like the progression of the story. I think that the two situations that she's forced together are extremely forced. They don't feel natural. It doesn't feel like a good flow. I appreciate that she wanted a string arrangement to sonically change up the album, but I personally think that this song drags the second half of the album along. I think that we could have just cut this and had Peace, Hoax, and Betty and the Lakes and let it go. I really didn't want this here. It was interesting how she mentioned things falling apart methodically. That really made me think about Reputation and about the moments where her career has fallen apart so sublimely that it like definitely paved the way for her to rise from the ashes. And I think that she likes that scenario more than she would have us believe, to be honest. I think she loves a comeback, she loves a reinvention, and things methodically falling apart kind of lay those things up for her. The explanation of this song also kind of had me thinking that quarantine was really rough for her, because she called it a flotation device. And I mean, it's been rough for everyone, but you kind of have this image of Taylor as just being like constantly happy and enjoying her life and like baking cookies and painting shitty watercolors and posting on Instagram every year. But clearly that was not the case for her. We can definitely see that her mind strayed and she made up worlds to entertain herself, much like she did when she was writing Speak Now and Fearless and entertaining herself with fairy tales to ease the pain of the life she was experiencing. I had a new appreciation for peace after seeing this, honestly. I loved the explanation. Again, I found it so interesting that she like named Joe directly for the first time. Like, she has literally never addressed him by name, I'm pretty sure, in an interview before. And it seems like she's becoming more comfortable with it because it's more stable. Because if you listen to songs like Dancing with Our Hands Tied, that was all about being afraid that the media and the paparazzi and attention could really ruin something that was new and fragile. But at this point, it seems to me as if whatever they've got going on is a very strong kinship, and it is not likely to be broken by the calamity that she faces being the most famous person in the world. I always love hearing about her experience with fame. I feel like there really is no one on this planet who can understand her kind of fame and the specific scrutiny that she's experienced and the level of attention that she's endured for such a long period of time, and how deeply that has unsettled her life in moments. I love that idea of being scared that she's not able to offer him peace. She can do everything else she can control everything possible, but she can't control this huge part of her life that affects her on a day-to-day basis. Overall, I really liked the arrangement, the vocals were amazing, and I felt that she was emoting super hard facially in this song. So if anything, Peace to me is a song more about distance than closeness, because in a way, I think that she's saying, no matter what you do and no matter how great you are, you will never be able to like fully get what I need you to get in order to be with you. And I'm okay with that, but are you? Hoax. Okay, so she doesn't know what the fuck this song is about, and neither do any of us. She said it herself. She was like, I have no idea what this is about. It can be about 5 different things, and I don't want to write this song anymore. I don't want to put it on the album because I don't know where it's going. And something that I really loved hearing from Aaron Dessner was that he pushed her to continue with it and to challenge herself. Because I feel like with Taylor, she has a formula, she has a strategy, everybody expects something from her, and I don't think that producers like Joe Little, I don't think they push her out of her comfort zone. I think they say yes to everything that she wants to do, and they agree with everything that she says. Aaron Dessner is like really an artist, and an established artist that Taylor respects. So I think in some ways he can command a sort of advisory role that other producers cannot. I think that sometimes producers work for Taylor, and with Aaron Dessner, the vibe that I really got is that they were working together. It was a partnership rather than a boss-employee situation, which was really cool, and I hope that she continues to work with him because, again, Hoax is not my favorite song, but I love it when she goes out of her comfort zone and tries something new, because occasionally we get something like The Last Great American Dynasty and it is worth it. So she says, anyone who knows me knows what the scars being pulled apart line is about. I'm thinking that's the Kimye situation, but it could also be Scott and Scooter, or it could be something totally unrelated that we have no idea about, and that thought is going to keep me up at night. So Taylor, if you'd like to let me know, my DMs are open. I'm ready to chat with you always, and I do wish that she'd gone for the falsetto, because the falsetto really makes this song, I think, and I don't know why she didn't attempt it. Maybe she was like tired after singing so much, but it would have been cool if she did. The Lakes. Okay, so I didn't react to this in my reaction video because it came out like a week later, but this is one of my favorite songs on the album. It is so different. It is so bold. The writing is so fucking good. My calamitous love and insurmountable grief. How the fuck do you fit that into a song? How? In one line, let alone. Like, not even two separate phrases. Like, in one line, she says those two things. This song really, again, shows her power as a creative and an artist and a writer. I was so happy to hear her talk through how she like went to a place, the Lake District, and like really felt inspired by the history, and she wanted to let that inform the process of writing this song. I love it when she goes back in time and makes something historical, as you know, Last Great American Dynasty, The Lakes. I love it, I'm into it. I want to hear her write about her heroes and the people that inspire her and the lives that she wishes to emulate. That is so interesting to me. It's not surprising that she wants to move into a cottage and watch wisteria grow over her feet and never speak to anyone again. That doesn't surprise me. But also, I don't think she actually wants that. I think she wants that when she's feeling overwhelmed. She also craves attention, and she also craves praise, and she loves to communicate with people. She really is like an extrovert through and through. So I think she would actually be pretty Les Miserables in a cottage in the Lake District. If she was miserable in quarantine, that is gonna be really rough for her. I think this is a really good bonus track because Hoax was an interesting note to end the album on, but The Lakes really closes it out, for sure. She mentioned that the album wasn't really done until The Lakes was finished. I do kind of wish it was on the standard edition, but like, we got a live performance of it and it's on Spotify, so I have no complaints. I do think this is one of my favorites from the record. And that is it. That was the Folklore Live from the Bottom of the Pond. I was so happy to receive this gift and so grateful that Taylor gave it to us. I think it is not easy to consistently be like churning things out in quarantine, and when you think about it, we have gotten a lot of content in the last like 4 or 5 months. So I'm grateful, I'm happy, I'm so excited to see the next phase of her career and where she's gonna go beyond this. I think there's only up from here. I am trying to make more videos on this channel, so I have a couple of ideas, and you can leave a comment and let me know what you would like to see. So I'm either thinking I will do Where the Reputation era went wrong, a deep dive into why Red is the greatest album of all time, or 3 missed single opportunities. So let me know what you would like to see. Leave a thumbs up if you're sexy, and subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be creating more on here. It's fun. I bought a ring light. I had a marvelous time talking about everything. And if you would like to hear more about my Taylor Swift thoughts, I have a podcast. It's called The Evolution of a Snake. I co-host it with my friend Madeline. That'll be linked below, and you can follow me on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram, but like, I don't really talk about Taylor on there. All right, I've been rambling. Goodbye, everyone.